What's up, YouTube? I have to be a little louder because I currently have a fan blowing, like right down there. It's like down there, directly down there. So if you can't hear me, I'm very sorry. I have to be partially quiet because it is currently 12:53 in the morning, and people are sleeping in this household, and also the fact that I have to somewhat be loud because, like I said, I have a fan blowing right there because it is hot. Like, for real, it's hot. So I'm kind of contradicting myself. I have to be quiet in courtesy of the people sleeping right now, and I have to be loud because of this stupid fan. But anyway, this is my reaction rant to last week's four DC CW shows. Supergirl, all of them being episode 2 of all the current seasons of the DC CW shows. Season 3, episode 2 of Supergirl. Season 4, episode 2 of The Flash. Season 3, episode 2 of Legends of Tomorrow. And Season 6, episode 2 of Arrow. But this is strictly the Supergirl episode. So anyway, Supergirl. Season 3, episode 2, if I remember correctly, was titled Triggers. If I remember correctly, because this was last week, and I had to do a major catch-up. But anyway, I remember correctly, Cara was battling a robber who apparently goes by the name PSI. And I know that name sounded familiar because, duh, I read comics, but it's been a while. And so, PSI, if I remember correctly, let's see here. Her real name is Gayle Marsh. I'm trying to refresh my memory here. But anyway, her real name is Gayle Marsh. And in the comics, the team affiliations that she was on was the Suicide Squad. So she was a member of the Suicide Squad, and apparently also a member of the Black Lanterns. And remember, if you're a Black Lantern, you're dead. So, if I remember correctly, Gayle Marsh in the comics, she developed psychic powers, primarily psychokinesis. And then, after her parents died, she was raised by a scientist, if I remember correctly. His name was like David Pendergast or something like that. And she took the alias of PSI and fought Supergirl several times in the comics, mainly because she thought Supergirl was somebody else. She thought Supergirl was someone named Decay, who actually is a menace that was created by the very scientist that was raising her. So, and she joined the Suicide Squad for a mission in Central America, but unfortunately was killed by the Rocket Red Brigade. And herself, well, quite honestly, I don't remember much. I only remember that she got killed. What'd you call it? She ended up with an alias, Mr. 104. And oh wait, not alias, sorry. I'm out of it right now. But anyway, she had allies that were also killed during that Suicide Squad mission. One of them being someone named Weasel. Hang on 1 minute. Let me see if I could pull up Weasel real quick. I never thought I'd actually, amazing enough, pull that name off. But anyway, Weasel. Weasel. Whose alter ego is apparently John Monroe, and only been in the Suicide Squad apparently, but yeah, he was also killed. But another familiar name showed up in this little PSI thing. PSI was killed, like I said, in a Suicide Squad mission in Central America alongside another ally named Weasel, but there was a third person in the Suicide Squad that actually died, and this is the kicker. The third person in the comics that died along with PSI and Weasel is the Thinker. Remember the Thinker? The Thinker is the new villain in The Flash. Ain't that something? Huh? I bet you didn't know that now, did you? Hey. But anyway, back to reality here. Anyway, apparently here, PSI can invoke her victims with their most deepest fear. Like, for example, just imagine if you had a fear of heights. She could invoke that in you, and you could be like imagining you're like on the highest mountain about to fall off, right? or you have a fear of sharks. She can make you see like a shitload of sharks and you're surrounded by them, basically. But anyway, while Cara was battling PSI pretty much invokes Kara's biggest fear, which is apparently the struggle with her memories of Krypton's destruction, and also the guilt of sending Mon-El away, right? So those were her apparent fears. Kara's apparent fears, of course, was the memory of the destruction of her home, and her people, her parents, and then her guilt over sending Mon-El, the love of her life, which PSI pretty much invoked during their battle. Wynn ended up making a psychic dampener. Unfortunately, it fails in the long run, but over time, though, Cara does overcome her fear against PSI and manages to arrest her. But anyway, give me a sec, guys. Anyway, sorry guys, I thought I heard something. But anyway, I know I pretty much jumped the gun with the whole fight thing, Cara versus PSI, which is like basically one of the main things in here, but it was very lackluster, that episode. I call it kind of like a filler in a way. It didn't really move the story, but we did see Kara's struggle over, of course, the death of her home planet and her family, with the exception, of course, of her cousin. We all know her cousin's alive. But, you know, everyone else, her mom, her dad, her whole world destroyed. The love of her life had to be sent away into a spaceship. So we actually got more in depth of her guilt. The fact that we actually got to see Kara's legitimate fears and guilt was a very interesting concept. And I like that part, but the battle against PSI, kind of lackluster in my opinion. But anyway, during that whole episode, we get to see Lena actually running Catco personally. Like, she's like an active CEO. Instead of like her own office, she's like, I don't need an office. I'm just gonna walk around and interact with all my employees, right? It was pretty cute. But it does take James by surprise, because remember, James was the one in charge of Catco up until Lena bought it. And Lena being there at work also causes a bit of friction with Cara during the episode, because Cara, you know, since, like I said in previous episodes, dealing with the guilt of sending Mon-El and everything, she's been trying to, like, kind of separating herself from everybody. And she kind of wants to separate her Supergirl life from her Cara life. And having Lena there at Catco, it caused friction with Cara, because she initially wants to separate her work from legitimate friendships, right? And so, of course, there goes the friction. And, remember that lady that we saw in the previous episode who apparently had super strength, and she didn't even know she had super strength until she saved her daughter, because remember her daughter? They were there at the unveiling of the Supergirl statue, and of course that dude in Little Submarine had to break everything, and I forgot what it was. It's those things, you know when you have like a stage, you have those things that hold all the stage lights and everything? Yeah, it's one of those things, and it fell on that poor girl, the girl's daughter. Remember, the mother's name is Samantha, and her daughter, I believe, is named Arias or something like that. But yeah, apparently, ever since Arias witnessed her mother Samantha save her with the super strength, she wants to see if her mother really does have superpowers, right? It's like, well, my mother's superpowers showed up when I was in danger. I was trapped, and she did a super strength, right? So she's deliberately... Oh, actually, wait. Now remember, her daughter's not Arias. That's her last name. Her daughter's name is Ruby. I'm sorry about that. Samantha Arias is her whole name. Her daughter's name is Ruby. Sorry about that. But anyway, she's deliberately putting herself in legitimate danger, mainly because she just wants to see her mother's superpowers pop out of nowhere again, because that's legitimately what happened. She was in danger, she was trapped, and her mother saved her by her superpowers showed out of nowhere, right? And, unfortunately, she didn't get to really see it because she got rescued by Supergirl during her fight with PSI. And, Samantha also learns, the mom, she learns that she can't really summon her powers unless she's fully stressed out. And she was definitely stressed out when her daughter was trapped under those light thingies. Remember that? Anyway, later on in the episode, when Cara and Lena are at Catco, Lena actually introduces Samantha to Cara at Catco saying, yeah, since I'm now the CEO here in Catco, I have a replacement at L Corp to take over for me, and that person ends up being Samantha. What are the odds that Samantha would be the one hand-chosen by Lena to take over L Corp while she's at Catco? What are the odds? That's some serious luck right there. This world just got smaller and smaller and smaller. Anyway, another thing that I feel like will cause a lot of tension with one of our power couples. It's sad enough that we already lost one power couple because Monel was sent away. And I thought maybe this will be a happy ending for another power couple in the show, which is Alex and Maggie, aka hashtag Sandvers. But we have a hiccup in the relationship. Apparently, Alex learns that Maggie does not want any children. Unfortunately, though, Maggie does. I mean, not Maggie, Alex. Alex wants kids. And she finds out that Maggie doesn't want a kid at all. So this might seriously be a huge hiccup in their relationship, because I've seen this before, whether it's in media, you know, like on TV or movies, or even in real life. I've actually seen this where we get a happy couple and they're together and they're thinking of taking those next steps, but then we find out one wants children, but the other one doesn't. And that does cause strain. Whether it's on movies or TV, even in real life, I've witnessed it, and this could be a really big hiccup. I mean, they're engaged, and Alex just learns that her fiance, future wife, doesn't want kids when she actually does. That won't fly. But anyway, Jean, we see him at the bar, the alien bar, and he actually ends up receiving a telepathic summon from Magan, urging him to come to Mars immediately. So obviously something's happening on Mars, to the point where Magan needs to seriously actually call Jean over. Which is kind of dangerous because, if I remember correctly, Mars is literally filled with white Martians that pretty much killed every green Martian. We all know that Jean was basically the only green Martian that survived. And even though Magan is a white Martian, on the side of the green Martians, and she even rallied up some white Martians to be on her side, majority of the white Martians there want to kill green Martians. So I don't know if that's like a legitimate thing, like she actually needs help, but even though if it really is her, it's dangerous for Jean to go by himself. He's the last remaining green Martian. I mean, come on. He's the last remaining one. That could be dangerous either way, or it could be a trap. So I'm worried about Jean. I hope that is really Magan. And if it is, it's still dangerous for Jean to be there. I'm really hoping this little hiccup with the no kid thing with Alex and Maggie doesn't break them up somehow, because Sandvers is the only power couple we have left on Supergirl now that Mon-El's sent away in space. But yeah, small world with Samantha taking over L Corp. I'm not gonna lie. But anyway, that is my reaction rant to Supergirl Season 3, Episode 2, titled Triggers. Bam! Bye, booters. See you later.